In the middle of the exhibition, a man walked to the center of the room, pulled out a hammer, and smashed a painting worth $3 million. The glass shattered. The canvas tore. Security rushed forward, but the artist was watching from the corner. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He smiled, and he said, "That is the one I've been waiting for." Before we go any further, if you love stories of redemption, psychological twists, and hard-won wisdom, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because we dig deep into the human mind. Drop a comment below. If you were that artist, would you forgive the man who destroyed your masterpiece? Or would you press charges? Now, let's go back to exactly why this happened. 10 years ago, that painting wasn't a masterpiece. It was a dream. It was the first major work of an unknown painter named Leo Moretti. Standing in the crowd that night was Marcus Delaney, the most feared art critic in New York. A single review from Marcus could make or break a career. And that night, Marcus was in a bitter mood. His wife had just left him. His own gallery show had flopped. He looked at Leo's painting, full of raw, vulnerable emotion, and he felt a surge of rage. He didn't see a work of art. He saw a mirror reflecting everything he had failed to become. Marcus wrote the review that night. He called Leo's work amateurish, pretentious, and an insult to the medium. The next morning, Leo's career was over. Exhibitions canceled. Buyers vanished. Leo's family lost their savings. Leo disappeared from the art world. But here's where psychology twists the knife. Marcus's scathing review didn't just destroy Leo. It destroyed Marcus. For the next 10 years, Marcus watched the art world move on without him. His articles became angrier, more cynical. He lost his job, his reputation, his home. He became a ghost, feeding on the memory of the one artist he had crushed. Meanwhile, Leo did something remarkable. He didn't quit. He couldn't paint for museums anymore, so he started teaching. He turned his pain into philosophy. He studied ancient Stoicism. He realized that the canvas wasn't the art. The meaning was the art, and that meaning could never be smashed. He taught his students that every failure is just a brushstroke in a larger masterpiece. He became known not for his brush, but for his wisdom. A week before the exhibition, Marcus received an unexpected letter. It was an invitation to Leo's first public showing in over a decade. And written on the back in Leo's handwriting were 3 words: "Bring your hammer." Marcus didn't understand. He didn't want to understand. But he couldn't resist. He found an old hammer in his toolbox, wrapped it in a cloth, and decided to finish what he started 10 years ago. He would walk in, destroy Leo's new work, and finally feel powerful again. So there he was, standing in front of that $3 million painting. He swung the hammer with all his rage. The canvas ripped. The crowd gasped. But Leo just smiled. Marcus was arrested. He spent the night in a holding cell, alone, still clutching the hammer's handle. The next morning, Leo posted bail. He asked to meet Marcus face to face. Marcus expected a lecture. He expected revenge. Instead, Leo handed him a cup of coffee and said, "That painting wasn't a masterpiece. It was a trap." Marcus looked up, confused. Leo explained, "I painted that piece specifically for you. Every stroke, every color. It was a portrait of your bitterness. I studied your reviews, your anger, your pain. I knew you'd come. I knew you'd try to destroy me again. But you didn't destroy me. You destroyed your own reflection." Marcus broke down. He confessed everything. The jealousy, the shame, the decade of self-loathing. Leo listened without judgment. Then Leo said something that changed Marcus's life. "You spent 10 years trying to tear down other people's dreams because you gave up on your own. But you can start again. The painting is gone. The review doesn't matter. What matters is what you choose to do now." Marcus wanted to ask for forgiveness, but Leo shook his head. "I don't forgive you," he said. "Not because I'm angry, but because forgiveness implies you did something to me. You didn't. You destroyed a piece of fabric and paint. What you did was destroy your own soul. And only you can rebuild that." In that moment, Marcus understood the true Stoic lesson. You don't control what happens to you. You control how you respond. Leo had turned a decade of humiliation into wisdom. Marcus had turned a decade of power into despair. The difference wasn't fate. It was choice. Marcus didn't go back to reviewing art. He opened a small gallery in a struggling neighborhood. He gave free space to young artists who had been rejected by the establishment. He mentored them with the same compassion Leo had shown him. He never painted himself, but he became a curator of other people's dreams. Years later, Marcus stood in his own gallery as a new artist hung her very first show. He looked at her trembling hands and said, "You're going to be criticized. You're going to be rejected. But remember, the only review that truly matters is the one you give yourself." The painting Marcus destroyed was never insured. Leo didn't care. He knew that the real artwork was the transformation of a broken man into a giver of second chances. And so, the hammer that shattered a canvas became the tool that rebuilt a life. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. We all carry a hammer. We all have moments when we want to smash something beautiful, because it reminds us of what we've lost. But the greatest act of strength isn't destruction. It's creation. It's rebuilding. It's looking at the shards of your past and saying, I can make something new from these. That's the Stoic way. That's the path of self-improvement. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below. What's one thing you've been holding on to that you need to let go of? And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next journey into the human heart. Thank you for watching. Keep building.